Okay, let's go.
Hey, good evening, and welcome to another episode of In the Passenger Seat, man, where I take you on a ride throughout the sports world, one interview at a time. We're gonna skip Gentlemen's Got Mail tonight. I had to come in hot, so we'll pick that back up on the next episode. I got with me tonight a two-time All-Met selection at Dunbar High School, an Atlantic 10 Conference Freshman of the Year, a two-time second team all-conference player there. He was a one-time first team all-conference player in the Atlantic 10. He's currently he's played ball overseas, and he's an outstanding basketball coach through colleges, AAU, and high school. Let's welcome my guy, Darryl Prue. Darryl, welcome to the show, my man.
I appreciate it, Jack. Yeah, I appreciate it. I should have been two-time first team or A10. They messed me up my sophomore year. It was one of my better years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to getting into that.
Yeah, I had one bad game. I'm going
to tell you, I've had a one-time All-Met selection. He was actually on last week. Mr. Jaden McDuffie from South River High School was on. And to have a two-time All-Met selection is a first. So I think this is going to be awesome. I look forward to getting into it. All-Met is now a distant past in the Washington Post, but they are trying to keep the namesake and the list is what I hear.
Yeah.
So, you got to keep that, man. I remember in my day, Thursdays, I would wait for the newspaper to come out because Thursday Washington Post covered that high school sports. You see the rankings and everything.
Yeah. When I was young in sixth grade, I used to look at the sports page and see them All-Met pictures, and you always wanted to, you always dream about getting in there. Then when it's your time, you don't even, you don't know if you're going to get it in or not. Then all of a sudden, things change and things work out for you. So.
Oh, I bet that was crazy, man. Just being anticipating and being, antsy and excited and nervous at the same time. So we'll get into that. But where I like to start off, I want to get to know where it started, how young Darryl became this sports guy that you are. So tell me about your childhood sports hero. Who was it?
I had a couple of them. It was one in basketball, one in football. My uncles played basketball at Oxon Hill High School, and it was a guy named Booty Neal. Booty Neal went to Kansas. He played basketball at Kansas. He was a very good player. When I was young, I used to watch him play on the football side. When I lived in D.C., right across the street was a guy named Roland Grimes. He played football he was a big running back, big fullback at McNamara High School, and then played at Syracuse. I went to a game, and him and Steve Smith from the Mantha, they were just going back and forth. And it was me and my friends on the street was like very, very, very intrigued about the private schools because I didn't know much about it growing up in Southeast DC.
Okay. And who was your other? You can tell me the second one too.
Oh, I told you both of them. Booty Neal was the first one.
Oh, I didn't know they was both high school guys.
Booty Neal. Oh. Yeah, Booty Neal played at Oxon Hill High School. My grandparents lived in Fort Washington, and then he was friends with my uncles, Kevin and Kenny Wallace. And they would take me to the gym, and Booty would be there, and then I got to know him a little bit. Then he went off to college, and I didn't see him for a while. But to go to Kansas from Oxon Hill High School was a big thing. You know what I mean? Like to this day, still.
Yeah, definitely. Especially back then, man. Back then we had to send in VHS tapes or maybe even Betamax, man.
Yeah.
And today's kids, man, they got it. I mean, I'm not saying they got it easy, but just hit a button on your laptop and tape sent all over the country. It's just unreal how far it's come from when we did it. So let's talk about you as a youngster growing up in in the DMV area. Did you play for a youth organization growing up?
No, I never played any organized sports until I got in the 8th grade. I got to middle school. I was a better football player than basketball player. If you listen to the guys in the neighborhood, I could throw the ball really, far. I had great hands, but they thought I was going to be the quarterback. But back then there wasn't that many black quarterbacks. So then I grew. What I mean. So and when I grew, now people want to put you on a line and all that stuff. So I was like, nah. Then it was tight end and all that stuff. But then the circle with basketball just got bigger, so I just stuck with that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now you're the big youngster. They always want to put you on the line. I went through that myself, and then they started seeing in pregame warmups, everybody gets in the line for for catching passes, and they saw I could catch a little bit, so they moved me from guard to tackle to tight end. And then I started throwing the ball back. Then, oh, he got little arms. So, yeah, I know the feeling. So then tell me about some of these backyard neighborhood sports you played. I'm sure you and your crew, did y'all do like I did in my neighborhood and go play other neighborhoods in football?
Yeah, we played a neighborhood across. We lived by Fort DuPont Park,
Oh,
and we
wow.
had the neighborhood on the other side of Minnesota Avenue. You know what I mean? So we lived in those houses, and they were they lived in those apartments. So they thought we had money. Well, we didn't have no money. We just it was just a little up from them. So they'll come play football. We'd be out there playing football, softball. We didn't have then later on they had a basketball court. They had a place called the TR Center, and it was mentally challenged, physically disabled kids, and they let us come in there sometimes and play. But most of the time we played outside. We didn't play that. We didn't play basketball in the neighborhood, but we definitely played football. It was tackle football, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It could get really rough, but we was the only two neighborhoods that would play, and the other neighborhood had I don't know if you know this name, Johnny Gill. Johnny Gill was he sung in at the New Edition. So he was him and his brothers would come over across sometimes, and cousins would come across Minnesota Avenue. It's a small field now, but that thing looked big when we were young. So that's where we played.
Yeah, no doubt. We used to do we had a whole not pickup. We had a whole neighborhood game of tackle football, and we would go out. I mean, this is after we got out of school, but we continued playing it. And it was like we go out that night to the club, and all these other dudes would brag that their neighborhood team was better, and then we go. And we was undefeated, and as we used to say, undefeated ain't going for shit. And then one of them guys on my team's nephew played for Oxon Hill, and I think they won a championship in the 90s sometime, early 90s. Oxon Hill won a state championship. And they invite us up 2 weekends after they won states to play them at Oxon Hill Field. And, we come out there, these boys got they got cones set up, they running little drills, and they got water bottles they squirt in their mouth, and then we show up, and we killing a beer, we just sit down and we just watching, and they're like, y'all gonna warm up? And then we like, we ready to play. And man, we blew them boys out, man. They ain't know what hit them, man. I just let them know after the game, good one, youngin', we men. And they just thought them 17, 16, 17, 18-year-old boys was going to beat these 25-year-olds. And it was so fun.
Okay.
And then half of them ended up playing for us in future games in the neighborhoods. We kind of adopted them cats. So I know all about neighborhood sports. We did a lot of it in my area. We even had tournaments.
Yeah.
So all right, let's get into middle school then. If that's all right, you go to middle school and y'all got sports and you're like, hey, I'm gonna try out for the team. Which team did you try out for first?
We only had basketball, so I only tried out.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we had, back then it was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade for us. And 7th grade, I was kind of scared to try out. You know what I mean? I was scared to try out. They were good. They had some guys that played in high school, and eventually, but for some reason, I was unsure of myself, and you know how it is. When you're young, you don't have no confidence, and you never really played organized sports before. And then, so the next year in the 8th grade, I tried out, and I started growing some. So I made the team. The coach knew my mother and my uncle, and it was funny. So all 7th grade year, right? I used to go to the playground at recess. Never got picked. Never got picked. I ain't get picked until like May or June at the end of the year. And with somebody that I used to stand there and watch the games all the time. I ain't say nothing. And there was a guy that picked me that remember me playing basketball at elementary school. He's like, oh man, he could play. Let him play. And ever since then, you know what I mean. I guess that's when my confidence got better because I got picked every day. And then going into the next year, I tried out for the team.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, no, sometimes I can understand the fear. I remember the first time I tried out for a team, it's not like when your parents sign you up. When your
Exactly.
parents sign you up, you're gonna play.
Or
But when
just have experience of being around other guys. I was just in the
yeah,
neighborhood. You know what I mean? You just in the neighborhood.
hmm
We didn't have no basketball courts at my elementary school. We had a court with no backboard, so we really didn't have, what I mean, facilities. So you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we had the outdoor court down the street. I might walk. I couldn't walk at that time in elementary school. I couldn't go to Anacostia Park, and I couldn't go to Fairfax Village, so I couldn't go nowhere to really play, on a basketball court. So it was everything was new. Being in a gym, you know what I mean. I used to come out to Fort Washington
yeah.
and play a little bit at the Indian Queen Rec in Oxon Hill Middle School with my uncles, but it's a different kind of thing when you're out on your own.
That's amazing, Darryl. Because you look at the athletes today, they're in a league at 7 years old.
Yeah.
It's thrown into stuff I think there shouldn't even be. I don't see
Mhm.
why a 7 and 8-year-old travel in AAU is necessary when you can learn the fundamentals at that age. But they start that young nowadays,
Mhm.
and by the time they get to middle school age, they're used to everything. So damn, that's amazing. The type of basketball career you had, not playing until such a late age. So
Yeah, and I think it was a blessing, you know what I mean? Because, I learned from different people. I didn't listen to everybody. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So if you didn't do anything, I didn't listen to you. You know what I mean? So they used to laugh at me. They say, well, you ain't, if a guy didn't play ball or this, then you wouldn't listen to him. Yeah, I wanted knowledge from people who did it. You know what I mean? And it helped me, you know what I mean, as I got better. Like I started in 8th grade and 3 years later, I'm first team all Met. Who would have thought that?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
no,
but I grew, you know what I mean? But I grew, but I had the football skills of breaking on the ball. I'm one of the top 5 ever in West Virginia in steals because I could break on the ball. I had great hands because I could catch. You know what I mean? Like we used to play softball in that field with no gloves. So I'm on the first baseman. When they throwing it to you, you got to catch it. You got to go out in the street and hit a car. So there's a lot of those things I picked up from doing other sports and playing other sports, and I was very competitive. So then I
mhm,
started, when I started playing, I wanted to play against older people, because they more physical. They'll teach you things. They'll grab you. They'll hold you. So I started playing against older guys. I started going down to the Anacostia Park and trying to challenge myself, and that helped me out a lot.
yeah, no. I mean, and you hear in today's sports, you get coaches that say, "Oh, if you're not playing 50, 60 games a year, you ain't nobody."
Hmm.
You know, and I like multi-sport kids, and I like kids that can play sports in that season. But a lot of coaches, a lot of institutions. I was talking with a coach of St. Francis Academy just this weekend, and I had been with the St. Francis basketball team last fall, and now I was covering their baseball team, and I wanted to know if any of the kids from the basketball team are on the baseball team. And he's like, "Nah, this ain't that kind of high school." St. Francis is a sports institution, in my
Right,
opinion.
right,
And they go there for that one sport and
right.
they work on it a year round, year
Hmm.
round. So I was surprised to hear that because I do still hear coaches, most of them are old school cats like me, that
Hmm.
say they prefer a kid play all 3 sports because it can work on parts of your body and parts of your game that you don't normally think you're going to work on. So
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I did at St. Charles. I was encouraging them guys to play football. Some ran track. We had one kid that played
track.
base. Yeah, we had one guy that played baseball before I got there, but he wouldn't play basketball with me when I got there because he thought I wouldn't let him play both sports. I'm like, no, you can play both sports because your sport might be baseball, your sport might be football. Everybody's not getting the basketball scholarship. Some of y'all, you 6'3" playing center. You're not going to get an athletic scholarship playing basketball. You know what I mean? He's in Division I. You know what I mean? So I'm
Right.
realistic. You know what I mean? I'm realistic. You know what I mean? So, and with a public school where you got a bunch of 5'11" guys. It's like it is what it is. You might be sport might be something else, which is okay. You know what I mean? I just happen to grow. You know what I mean? So because my dad was 5'9", my mom was 5'7". I grew to 6'7.5". Who would have thought? You know what I mean?
Good
So
Lord.
yeah. I mean, so I just got blessed.
Yeah, you got blessed or the postman came by. Excuse me for that humor.
Yeah.
No
No.
disrespect.
I ask my mother all the time. I ask all the time. Was it the postman? Because I look like the dude. I was like, but damn, where does all this height come from? His mother was 4'11". You know what I mean? Like it's like my grandma, my grandma on my mom's side was 5'6". So it's like, where all the 6 footers at? I don't see nobody. So it's just I just got blessed.
Okay. So it seemed like everything now is going pretty good at the junior high for you. So you continue to play another season? Yeah, one more season at the
Yeah,
junior high
yeah,
level at this point?
yeah. Back then we was wearing the Chuck Taylors, and I got hurt right at the beginning of the season, and I busted my ankle up real bad. So I missed half the season. So we lost all 6 games, and when I came back, we won 5 out of 6. And we played against some good players, some good teams, but we didn't make the playoffs. Nobody knew who I was. You know what I mean? Nobody knew who I was. So we had back then, DC public schools was open enrollment. So they come with a sheet, right? And say, what school you want to go to? Boom, boom, boom. So I signed Dunbar. I don't know if it was a list of 1, 2, 3, but it was a list. And it was a list. And so I know I put Dunbar number 1, or Dunbar was Dunbar. So um, my records get sent to Dunbar, not knowing the coach, not this and that. But what happened going into after the season, this Murray School, you know the Murray School in DC?
Yes, yes, indeed.
So this guy walks in, was recruiting players, right? I don't remember his full name, but the head coach was Butch McAdams, who passed away a few years ago. But his assistant was we call him Spook, little white guy. He comes and grabs me. They called me in. They called me into the math teacher's room. So I'm 6'4" now in ninth grade. So I'm 6'4", and I duck in, and I duck in the door because I'm tall. So I duck in the door. So we started talking. He invited me to all these different things. I played in youth games. I don't know if you remember youth games. I played in youth games. So he got me to
Wow.
try out with youth games. There used to be a tournament called the ghetto tournament up in Adams Morgan. You know what I mean? So I got to play in all these different things, and I was going to. Then I got in. I went to the summer school for a year for the summer at Murray. So now I'm playing in a Kenner, not the Kenner, what's he call it? On Wisconsin Avenue. It was a boys club. We play in the boys club. It was a big summer league. It was outside, and if it rained, you go inside. So I'm playing against Billy
Oh,
King. I'm playing against Dunbar. I'm playing against all these teams. They still don't know who I am. You know what I mean? So then, they talking about put me back a year. So I was like, that, in DC public schools, that's staying back. That's not reclassing. You know what I mean? So I was like, man, I don't want to stay back. And I flunked the summer school on purpose. I just stopped doing the work. It was kind of hard. The work was hard, but I stopped doing the work, and they still accepted me in the school. And it was crazy. It was crazy. So I told my mom I didn't want to go. It was too far away. It was all the way, I'm in Southeast. That's all the way about Woodley Park, about the zoo. So um, then, I ain't had no school. So I go to HD Woodson for a day. So I go to HD Woodson for a day, and they said my records was at Dunbar. So I go to Dunbar to go get my records,
oh,
me and my
Lord.
mom's, and we in the office. So the principal's like, you must be an athlete because HD Woodson is overflowing. They sending people away. I said, yeah. So he sends me out. He don't send me and my mother. He sends me out turn right, turn right. You know what I mean? Get your nurses, get your nurses, your medical information from the nurse office. I'm like, all right, cool. So now I'm in there, there's all these people around. So I'm like, oh my God, it's big school. And I saw this man standing there. I ain't know who he was. So I said, excuse me, can you can you tell me where the nurse's office is? He said, why? I said,
Ooh.
well, I'm getting my medical records to transfer to HD Woodson. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, you play basketball? I said, yeah. He said, you any good? I said, I think so. He said, son, let me talk to you for a second. It was Jodine Davidson. He grabs me around the shoulder, starts talking to me. We go back in and talk to my mother. My mother said, what you want to do? I said, okay, I'll stay. Didn't know me from nowhere. He asking his assistants about me. Nobody, only one person in that school knew who I was. And come to find out, it was my cousin. We found out later he would have been approved too if his mother wouldn't have got married. But we played against each other in middle school. He went to Roper and I went to Susan. His name was Darryl McClain, and he was a point guard on the team. He was the same year as me. He was the guy who passed me the ball with all my success. And all the person I knew was him. So we just sat and talked all day long. Then he telling me, the coach telling me, a few weeks into the workouts, I'm probably one of the best players to ever be here. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, I ain't gonna be better than this person. I was like,
Wow.
it's about 4 guys on this team that's way better than me right now. So you know what I mean? But then he ended up leaving after my sophomore year and going to Delaware State to coach. And he coached for a year, then things happened and he just been out, and then he passed away a few years later.
Okay. Wow. Sounds like that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
You just
Right.
didn't run into the right person yet. I mean,
Yeah, but
damn,
then it was because of him. You know what I mean? If he'd have stayed, I probably would have been a pro. But he was teaching me stuff, and my college coach told me recently he was before his time. He got drafted by the Bullets. He was friends with Bobby Dandridge. That's how I got my first pair.
Bobby D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he got Bobby Dandridge got some shoes. I ain't had no basketball shoes. I got my first pair of Nikes. It was from him. You know what I mean?
Get out.
Yep. So he played. They played together at Norfolk State, and they stayed friends. And and the story goes on to this day. I still talk to Bobby, and he was instrumental in my growth. Because that summer, was another story. To that. It's just we lose a championship game to DeMatha my sophomore year, and this guy comes in the gym, comes in the locker room actually, and said he's gonna start picking me up on Sundays. I was like, okay. I said, he must be okay if Jody let him in the gym. He said, I know your mother, I know your mother, I know your father, I know your mother, I know your uncle. I went to Susan with him. He went to middle school with my mother and my uncle. I was like, all right, cool. Man, he was come to find, he would pick up. His name was Dr. Joe Carr. He works for the NBA and he works with a lot of high profile people now. He was doing a study of all inner city kids. And he would pick up about 5 to 6 of us, sometimes 8. And we'll be riding around an escort station wagon. I was one of the littlest ones in there. He picked
In the
up
back.
all in the back. It was all of us. And then he would take us to McDonald's afterwards. But the gym was his gym. So we had to go to Randall School. Then we went out to Oak Hill with a facility where they have the youth detention, and he moved it around. But when we played, I'm playing against Bobby Dandridge for 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? On Sundays, I'm sorry, not a day.
Wow.
And it was amazing. If I lose, he put me back on the court. So I had to guard the best player in the gym. The next week, Adrian Dantley might show up. So I had to play against him. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those things that helped my growth. This is going into my junior year in high school. So you know what I mean? So I went from averaging, 6 points a game to like 20 points a game easy.
Wow. That's impressive too. You're killing me here, Pauls. So at Dunbar, your freshman year, let's get into what that season was like. Because I know y'all had some good hoopers down there.
Yeah. So
Uh,
freshman year, I was still in middle school. So it was my
oh,
sophomore
that's
year.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
mixed up with
Yeah.
this because
DC.
I
DC was
went
different.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, I went to middle school, seventh and eighth grade, and then ninth grade I started. But you're right. Back then it was different in DC in there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all right. So middle school, you're wrapping it up through ninth grade now. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go to your sophomore season coming to
Mm-hmm.
Dunbar. Did they know who you was then when it's ready to get on
No,
board?
no, nobody knew who I was. I ended up starting. We had guys. We had Mike Millen. We had Bernard Campbell. He ended up making all Met. Call him Scooby. Tyrone Jones. He was going as my senior year. He was All American. We had so all these guys. Mike Millen ended up at Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte. Tyrone Jones ended up at Oklahoma, and when they won the national championship. And then when he lost the national championship, Sean Alvarado, Kansas, Bernard
Mhm.
Campbell, he just couldn't get right. I mean, we had a really good team. We ended up playing the math in the championship. They had Benny Bolton, who's Benny Muhammad right now. They had Carlton Valentine, whose sons played at Michigan State. They had Danny Furry. Then during the year we played against Michael Graham and Sherman Douglas. So it was
Germ
the
over there, spin
competition.
gone.
Yeah, yeah, the competition was amazing. You know what I mean? And there was no days off. Playing in the city leagues back then, and
Right.
so it was just Coolidge had Wally Lang, not Wally Lang. They had Milton Newton. They had good teams. That Milton Newton played at Kansas, who's the general manager of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's assistant general manager. So it was just a lot of competition back then, and I love to compete. So, you compete. H.D. Wilson had Bernard Day. They had, he went to Nebraska. They just graduated. Andre McLeod, who played at Seton Hall. So it was the competition back then, especially amongst the bigger guys, was amazing.
Right. Yes. Well, to come on your sophomore season on the scene and to be able to work hard enough to get a starting job, it seems like all of it paid off in junior senior years.
Mhm.
Getting more recognition nationally as well as through the Washington Post, making the All Met 2 times, first team, not
Yeah.
not honorable mention, not second team. Your junior senior year, first team All Met.
Yeah.
What were those seasons like for Dunbar, though? It was
Yeah.
successful for you, but were they successful seasons as a team?
Yeah, like I said, in my sophomore year, we was nationally ranked and ranked in the area. My sophomore year, I can't remember what was end up, but my junior year, we was nationally ranked as well,
Right.
uh, and we were number one for about a month or two, number one in the country in USA Today, and we
Wow.
ended up like number nine. So we lost those 2 years to DeMatha. We had a new coach. Roy Westmore, and he wasn't the same as Jodine Davis, but we had enough talent to still win. Then my senior year, it wasn't as successful. Spingarn had the same guys for 2 years. They went undefeated, and they went undefeated, and the Coolidge was really good too. But it was like, we were young because with the coaching change, they didn't really recruit that well and they were all sophomores my senior year, and they ended up winning the
Mhm.
championship. They ended up winning the city championship 2 years later as the seniors.
Okay. I gotta take a second, gotta pay a few bills, and then we're gonna get back with I got a comment coming in. So let me take a short break and we'll be right back with you, everybody.
Okay.
All right, now and welcome back to the sports right. I'm sorry, to In the Passenger Seat. That's our sponsors, Chesapeake Landscape Materials, down there at 8217 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard in Pasadena, Maryland. Man, I've been working on my landscape chores. Beautiful weekend last weekend. Now it's cold as ass out there. I'm just get this weather right. But it's time to get all your landscaping needs. They got everything you need there. They got all the different color mulches. They got pea gravel. They got pavers. They got drainage. Anything you need to work on your landscape projects and more at Chesapeake Landscape Materials, 8217 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard, Pasadena, Maryland. Phone number over there, 410-437-7718. And Darryl, I was hoping some of these guys would jump in, man. We got a message here from Gerald Warren. Gerald Warren say, congratulations on all your success in life, champ. Blessings. You know Gerald?
No, I don't know him.
Gerald's probably about your age. He's a Bladensburg guy, if I'm correct. I think he's a couple years younger than me.
I appreciate it, Gerald. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, Gerald, and everybody. As let you know, man, it's a live show with live comments. You want to join in? You want to ask Darryl a question? Go ahead and hit me up in the comments. I'll be more than happy to get back to you on that. So let's get back to talking about what's going on at Dunbar High School through your junior and senior years. Your game is picking up. You're giving some flowers. Everybody's letting you know, hey, we see you, your first team. What was it like with the recruiting? Did you get a lot of offers and everything through your junior and senior year, or when did they come in?
They started coming in. I became an All-American and all that stuff. A lot of teams were coming in recruiting the other guys, but the coach he was terrible with my recruiting. He wanted me to go to Georgetown. You know what I mean? And you know how that can get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he got the job. I don't know how he got the job, but it was bad. And I ended up signing with Georgetown, and only 3 schools came in. It was Ohio State, West Virginia, and Georgetown. Who would you have picked out of those 3? You know what I mean? I wanted to go to Maryland.
Yeah, back then, I would have went Georgetown back then.
Yeah. He wouldn't let me go to Maryland. You know what I mean? It was bad. It was really bad how they did it, and I ended up getting out of it. They tried to say I didn't qualify and all that stuff, but I went to another D1 school. There was people that had worse. But that's another story. But it was just it got really bad.
Well, that's the way it still is today, man. These coaches, they get in cahoots with certain universities. Them universities slip them some tickets, on the regular, and that's kind of exchange for, hey, make sure you send your guys our way. And nothing's changed in the times. It's a shame, because I feel the coach should do what's best for the young man and not what's best for him. And a lot of times they look at it the way your guy did, and not knocking it, but it sounded like you should have had 15 offers, but it don't sound like he put in the legwork for you. And nowadays, like we said earlier in pre-show, it's a lot easier to put the legwork in. We don't have to put a stamp on it and put it in the mail and wait 3 weeks, a month, 2 months to hear back. You send a freaking email and you hear back tonight. So
yeah, because I got mail from everybody. You know what I mean? Only one I get mail from was North Carolina, and I think
we don't like them.
We
don't like North Carolina.
Well, I thought North Carolina was a forward school. North Carolina, Louisville, Syracuse, and DePaul were forward schools. I wanted to go to one. I wanted to go to one of them. But it wasn't even about money. It was just, the black-white thing. I'll play for a black coach, this and that. And what happened was, there was another backstory to it. My first coach and John Thompson had a big riff. And he told me, the first high school coach told me I wasn't going to go to Georgetown, because something happened with one of the best players that ever come out of Georgetown was Anthony Jones. and who ended up leaving. He came. He was in a class with Patrick Ewing, so he was really good. So it was Patrick Ewing, his senior year in high school was Patrick Ewing, Anthony Jones, Mike Jordan. That's how good he was.
Wow.
And he ended up getting drafted in the first round after he went to Vegas. He's the one that knocked out Lenny Bias in Maryland at UNLV when in Lenny's senior year. But it's it was a big riff. That's another whole backstory to that. And then when he got in, I guess the coach, Thompson wanted that pipeline back to Dunbar because, for years we always had players, and it was just
Mhm.
an unfortunate situation.
Yes. Well, I just want to touch base, after some of the great names you had named. Uh, there's a list of the top 20 high school players back at your time right here.
Mhm.
And Jeff Lebo, everybody remembers him from
Mhm.
North Carolina. Danny Perry, of course, from the mouth over in Hyattsville, went to Duke.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm just going to name some of the ones I recognize. Tito Horford, who went on to the University of Houston.
Al
Jerome
Horford,
Richardson.
Al Horford's father.
Yeah, yeah. Think about that.
Uh-huh.
How old now? Yep, yep. So thanks for catching on that. Jerome Richardson, he went
Pooh.
on to play over at UCLA.
Yep, that's my man. Pooh.
And who else we got? Rodney Strickland over at Oak Hill. Went
Yep,
on to
that's
play
my
at
boy.
DePaul. That was
That was my
money.
main man.
And
He's
then,
doing
a big
Jerome
home
Lane, Jerome Lane at Pitt.
for. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
I was going right next to Glenn Rice, who went on
yep.
and played ball at, I'm
Michigan.
saying, and then Mr. Darryl Prue down here. That's something, man. And they got
Yeah,
you listed 6'6". You grew a little bit. Wow,
yeah, I grew a little bit.
there's some key names on this list and some big time schools on this list.
Yeah,
Darryl,
yeah, yeah.
you are in good company here, and it just shows where you were at that stage of your basketball career.
Mhm.
So you're going. How did the Georgetown, West Virginia thing go down? Now, if you already mentioned it, I apologize, but
Mhm.
you're talking of Georgetown was where you were going, but then you end up at West Virginia.
Yeah, it was one of those things. They wanted me to come work out all the time, and I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I was, I needed, I was getting I was on bus tokens. I wasn't on, you dropping money.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm running out. I'm running out of bus tokens going up to Georgetown. I asked for bus tokens. They think I'm asking for money. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for bus tokens because I'm running out by Wednesday. And then my mother ain't going to buy no more. You know what I mean? She just wasn't going to do it. So then that became a problem. Then this became a problem. You know what I mean? I started rebelling and
Oh,
yeah. So it was like they had a meeting and said, well, maybe you just should move on. So I moved on, and then I was trying to figure it out. When I moved on, we had the meeting, and my college coach was like, my high school coach was like, we're gonna find another black coach. I said, well, another black coach just dicked me around, so I want to go to another black coach. And I walked away. I ain't even want to play. I was
is that
done.
right?
Hey, man, man, an 18-year-old shouldn't have gone through that shit I went through at that time. I got a book coming out, and it's
Oh,
coming to
really?
be in the book. Yep, yep. But it should be out next month, sometime.
Oh, you got
Yeah,
to
man.
send me that information. I will
Yeah,
share it on my
yeah.
page, and
Yeah,
I will
I'll send you.
purchase it.
Yeah, it's called a True Proof. But it's so that
Ha
yeah. So that situation, Then some teams, AU came around. I started, UNLV and UNLV came around. Then my grandfather was like, "That's too far. I can't see you play." And
Yeah,
West Virginia just hung in there. You know what I mean? And it just
yeah.
hung in there, and I was like, I mean, and it worked out. You know what I mean? So it worked out, and they still take care of me when I go down there. So like I said, I got my West Virginia stuff on now, and
Yes,
so
indeed.
yeah, so it's sometimes it's about relational interactions, not transactional interactions, and I think the big thing for me was when I went through, I needed some people that I can trust because I had some
Amen.
trust issues going on.
No, I like the way you said it's not about the monetized stuff.
Hmm.
It's about the relationships and how you treating me and
Hmm.
are you helping me as a kid? or and you trying to use me as a meal ticket,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is different, and I think it's a little better nowadays than back then. I think there was too much just I got to help my guy or I got to help this guy and not help the kid as much as it is looked at today in helping kids get to further their education. Number one is what coaches try to do.
Yeah, it's still the same, like you said. Coaching AAU, high school. Being a college coach, you still see people and get their hand out and what they can get out of it. They want to be recruited. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes the parents want to be recruited more than the kid do. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? Like then sometimes some people like the bullshit that the coaches talk to them. How they talk to them. They like the bullshit. Some people like real. You know what I mean? So it's a whole lot going on, and it's just amazing.
So let's get down to playing ball at the NCAA Division I level. Atlantic, what is it called now? It's not called Atlantic 10 no more, is it?
Yeah, it's still Atlantic 10. Yeah. Atlantic 10 was really strong then. Yeah, Temple, St. Joe's. They were really strong. West Virginia was okay. When I came in, he didn't want to start me. You know what I mean? So my first few games were Chuck Person at Auburn, Lynn Bias, Maryland, St. John's with Mark Jackson and what's the left-handed guy? I forgot him.
Mullen, Chris Mullen.
Not Mullen. It was the big guy. He was really good. Walter Berry. Walter Berry. Yeah, Walter Berry. So, at Charles Smith, you had Charles Smith at Pitt. So I think my first 5 games, we ended up playing Auburn twice. You know what I mean? So, and I had really good games against all. I had 15, 15, 30, 10, so I did really good. They ended up starting me. And I think I was okay because of all the lessons I learned from Adrian Dantley and Bobby Dandridge. You know what I mean? Just getting used to the physicality and the speed of the game. In the mental part, I think I was ready. And I study. I like to watch tape. So, and it's not like it is now. We have all these trainers. We always did. I played within the system, so I learned the system right away. So I played within the system, and I just wanted to win. And I didn't care about a lot of stats, but I did a lot of different things. I rebounded, I scored, I got assists, I got steals. You know what I mean? So, I just filled the stat sheet up just by just playing basketball.
Yeah, and it does sound like you did have some good mentors in your life, as you just mentioned, Adrian Dantley and Bobby Dandridge again. Definitely sounds like those two definitely helped you go in the right directions and coached you up.
My senior year at Dunbar, Adrian Dantley was holding out with the Utah Jazz. Nobody remembers that. He was holding out. Guess where he was at every day practicing? At Dunbar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was
a good dude.
He was out there running up down the floor with us. You know what I mean? So, like, who gets that experience? You know what I mean? So, yeah, who gets that experience? So
I crossed his path a couple times. Turkey Thicket, I seen him over there a couple times, and he would just give me all the time in the world because he is a little bit older than us. He would give me all the time in the world if I say, "Hey, what's up with this?" And we was up there. I think it was Eric Sleepy Floyd was there. Danny Ferry was up there. I mean, everybody used to go run Turkey Thicket, Rock Creek Park. We had some good runs. Used to run the quad up at University of Maryland, and I always had good interactions with Dantley, and it seemed like he had aspiring basketball players' best interest at mind as far as educating and giving them the right.
Yeah, he was very real. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? That's what you want. You don't want anybody to sell you a dream. You want somebody to be very real with you. Man, that's what I appreciated about him.
So, talking about going through the West Virginia and you're excelling and you're all conference now. Tell us about that 22-game win streak y'all had over there.
Oh man, so this is how I went down.
That's a lot.
So I was the first All-American to go there since like Jerry West. And then the next year, Chris Brooks came in from New York, but he was Prop 48, so he had to sit out. And that was his second year, my senior year. That was our senior year, the 22-game win streak. So we go
Mm-hmm.
out first game of the season. We lose to Robert Morris at home. We just had a bad game. Robert Morris. We lose to Robert Morris at home.
Damn, that's
Yeah.
a high school squad.
And back then, we should have won that game. Bad game, we still should have won by 10. We just bad.
Man.
I missed a couple of free throws at the end. Boom. Play the second game. We win. Third game was against Bradley. We lose. So we lose 2 of our first 3 games. First 2, 3 games. Bradley had just lost Hershey Hawkins. We lost to them up in Illinois the year before. So with Hershey Hawkins on that team. So we lose to them. We had a meeting. And then clear the air. It was like, look, we all here. We got to play. You know what I mean? We need the guys on the bench to help us out. You know what I mean? This and that. You can't worry about what happened last year, this year, or year before. We all got to play for now. And we aired some things out, and man, we just started kicking ass. We just started kicking ass. You know what I mean? We beat Maryland at Maryland. They had Mustaf, Walt Williams, Massenberg, and all those guys.
Yeah.
That was Walt's first freshman year. We beat them at Maryland. Bob Wade was the coach. We went to Pitt and beat Pitt. We went to Charlotte to beat Charlotte, and then we just rolled. We just rolled through the Atlantic 10. We only lost 1 game in Atlantic 10, and that was at Temple. Mark Macon and those guys. And we lose the game. I'll never forget this. We lose the game, and after the game, we go in the locker room. 22 games, whatever. And Bill Cosby walks in the game. He walks in the locker room and congratulate us on our season. So now that showed me you never know who's watching. You know what I mean? Like for him to come in there, we've seen him at other games and stuff like that, but it never came to our locker room. Came to our locker room, congratulated us on the season, and made a couple of jokes. Then he left out. But then we ended up playing in a tournament. We had a bad tournament, lost to Penn State. Then we played in the NCAA tournament, played Tennessee first, beat them by 15. Then we played Duke with Christian Layton and Danny Ferris. I get Danny again. So I get Danny again, and they fouled me out. I had 3 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the game. But coach played me through fouls, so it was just one of those things. And I fouled out at the end, and we ended up losing by 6.
Oh, dude.
It was a great game. It was a battle. It was a great game. We didn't have much depth. They get more. West Virginia get more depth after I left. Because they was getting a lot of West Virginia guys. But now, you know what I mean. Like, Duke came off the bench. They started Danny and Christian Layton. Man, they came off the bench with Alan Abdelnaby and somebody else. I was like, good God Almighty. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, I'm tired. You know what I mean? I was like, can I get a break? You know what I mean? So. That's when they used to just beat you with physicality. You know what I mean? So, and they was skilled, and they were skilled. So it was just like, oh man, it was just one of those things where you couldn't win. You know what I mean? You keep fighting, You just wore us down.
Well, that was good. You got right into the tournament. I knew you went to the tournament that year, and I want to try to get to everything today. We're gonna get. So how did things go with NBA, like the draft or being a free agent or signing, an undrafted deal?
Man. I had an agent and then I didn't get in the camp. They got dicked around, man. And, I don't know, back in DC, we had people that did a lot of different things. And I used to hang with those people. And I think some of that kind of hurt me. You know what I mean?
A lot of people.
Doing whatever they was doing, and that hurt me because someone brought it up. They used to work for the NBA security, security checks, and he asked me, like years later, you still hustling? I was like, I don't hustle. You know what I mean? So, I kind of figured that.
Well, some of your boys did.
Yeah, a lot of because that's everybody was doing it. So,
product of your environment.
Yeah, everybody was doing it. So then. Like in the summertime, we played the Bullets in the summer league, and I saw Bob Ferry, and Bob Ferry was like, "Man, if I didn't know you was in camp," he said, "I'd have brought you here and got you in the camp here because I had a relationship with Danny, and his father. You know what I mean? Even before his father died, I had a relationship with him.
Well,
I would just
Bob was a
call,
nice guy.
yeah, because he was when I was coaching at Georgetown, he would call me about players, and I would give him a synopsis of what I was doing or what they were, and he did a great job. He was just a great man too. He was just a
Yeah, no,
really
I met
nice
him
man.
once.
Yeah, really nice man.
Uh, so that didn't go down. And I
Hmm.
can't imagine what looking at basketball overseas was like in the, late 80s, early 90s.
Hmm.
But actually the 90s for you.
Yeah,
So what the hell was that like looking at basketball
but
overseas as
this
a
is
23-year-old?
yeah. So I was like 20, 21, 22. So I was like, I went to the CBA. I got drafted by the
Ah,
CBA, Rapid City, Eric
mm-hmm.
Musselman.
Yeah.
And Eric Musselman can kiss my ass. So, so uh, yeah, it's funny how things are. So we had Pearl Wash is in there, Jarvis Bass Knight. We had a good team. It was Rapid City out of South Dakota.
Yeah.
And, I'm playing okay, Then we had we had an inter-squad scrimmage. So and then there's this first round that just got big man just got pushed down from Utah. So we had an inter-squad scrimmage. So I'm on the second team, and I had 27 rebounds.
Jesus
Jarvis
Christ.
Jarvis Basnight was like, man, I could play the three now. You know what I mean? This and that. Boom, boom, boom. He didn't like Pearl Washington. This and that. The next day, he put me with the starters. I was like the sixth man, seventh man. He played me 2 minutes a quarter.
What?
At the end of each quarter, he put me in the last 2 minutes. That's how I know it was 2 minutes a quarter, because he put me in the last 2 minutes.
Wow.
Go to practice the day after that. So it was two guys in front of me. I'm the third guy. We're doing this drill. So four-man, so they all stood at the free throw line. So I'm standing at the free throw line. He said, where the four-man at? I said, I'm right here. He said, get the fuck on the court. So I looked down. I'm standing on the free throw line. I said, I'm on the court. He said, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I said, you've been fucking with me all week. I'm getting sick of this shit. And I went to get them. They grabbed me. You know what I mean? So they grabbed me. The next day they cut me.
Really?
Yep. Next day they cut me.
Gee.
Flip Saunders was the assistant coach.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, Flip.
He
He's
told
passed, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's passed. He told some.
Yeah.
He told the European people that I got caught in the numbers game. Like, how you get caught in the numbers? I was producing. Then this
Um,
asshole. About 5, 6 years later, Charles Smith from Georgetown. He got in this trouble. He came back to the CBA playing for Musselman. Charles called me to my man. We need a rebounder. Come play. He said, I said, who's the coach? He was like, Musselman. I said, man, fuck that. I said, fuck
Bye-bye.
that. I'm going right back to Europe. I went right back to Europe. I was like, I'm not playing with that fool, man. I'm not playing with that guy.
All right, just give me a quick description of what it was like playing in Europe. Landing
Uh,
on the plane. Did you fly over there by yourself? How'd that work out?
so the first year I was in my first year I was in Brazil. I played for the coach that beat the USA team. The coach he coached Oscar Smith
Oh,
and
is
all
that
those guys.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played for him, and he played me at the two. I started the game at the two. Then when the American big guy went out, I went to the four. So I loved it. You know what I mean? I was jacking shots up. I was averaging 30. You know what I mean? So I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved it. I loved it. That's when I became a pro. Because there was another guy, we used to go shoot around, work on I never worked on stuff before like that. You know what I mean? So we would work on stuff during the day, practice. The coach loved me. To this day, he's on my Facebook page. And we ended up playing the national team with Oscar Smith on them. And we went undefeated and won the championship. And I was supposed to go back, but the team, they ran out of money. You know what I mean? So
Ah,
then, you know what I mean? Then they were trying to get me to go to the top team in another league. That didn't happen. So I went back to school to get my degree. I was like, if I don't get it now while I'm, just a semester removed, I don't know when I'm gonna come back. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because back then, they wasn't doing that. They had that rule where if you need to graduate, they'll pay for it. So I wanted to get it when I was paying for it. And I went back to school and they paid for it. And then I went back to Europe. I went over to try out for some teams. And when I went to Europe, I ended up going to Spain in '94 and Tenerife. I lived on an island in Tenerife. So I loved it. I loved it.
Right.
I had
Well,
another
shit.
jerk as a coach, but I loved it. I loved
Shit.
it.
You had them beautiful women in Brazil, though. Good
Yeah,
Lord,
yeah,
cookie.
yeah. I was in two tropical places in my first two jobs. You know what I mean? Like we'll in Spain. We'll fly back to the mainland, like Barcelona or Madrid, but it'd be freezing. It was so cold. One time we playing in Madrid, the guys on the sideline had their coats on and their full uniform. It was so cold. So I was like, Coach, please don't take me out. You know what I mean? Like, let me stay in the game. It was freezing. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
But we had to run on the beach sometimes. The women on the beach are topless, so we running, looking at the same time. It's just that's how they roll over there, and it was
That's
just
it.
yeah, it was just one of the amazing experience carnival over there.
Yes,
And I
sir.
didn't, yeah, man, it was just yeah, yeah, that
Now you didn't have the internet and well, not as well as now to look up all this stuff and see what you're going to.
no, you just go. You just
That's
go.
it.
The what I learned early was to learn their culture. The players will like you better if you learn their culture. You ain't gotta learn everything. You ain't gotta like everything, but
Attempt.
yeah, attempt just to be one of them. Don't act like you're better than
Yep.
them. And
Yep.
I think that's why they like me because they what I mean. I got along because I didn't know. Oh, you don't know everything. Don't know everything. Don't you? All Americans think they know everything. They think they this and that. Then I had some Yugoslavian coaches that were pretty good too. But it was this. It was. I, I wish. I wish I enjoyed it more. You know what I mean? And stayed and
Well,
played as long as I could.
I hear it a lot that the American players that go over there, they think they're all this and all that. But you don't realize that a lot of these European players, they've been playing pro ball since they 15,
Mm-hmm.
16,
Mm-hmm.
17,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll knock you on your ass quick
Yeah,
because
the
it's a
game is more.
physical.
Yeah, the game is more physical over there because they bigger guys. They're not as fast and athletic. But I
Right.
got another story. So I went up to New England and work out for this guy's agent who was sending guys overseas. So he called me. He said this team in Germany looking for a player, but they want the player to mentor this guy who's about to go in the draft. It was Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, what?
Yep, yep,
Wow.
yeah. It didn't go through. I was like, I'll do it. You know what I mean? It wasn't that much money. I said, I'll do it. And because Germany's a good spot, you know what I mean? So but it didn't go
Mhm.
through. And I was supposed to be his mentor, show him the American way and yada and stuff like that. But it just didn't work out.
All right. Well, I mean, it seems like you had a very fine little career over there from the teams I see you play for. You were also
Hmm.
in Korea for three
Hmm.
seasons. Not many people hear about the Korean leagues or even in
Yeah,
China. They have
yeah,
some. I got some friends that played in China.
yeah.
Explain that to you because I know you wasn't over there talking no Mandarin and shit like that. So
No,
tell me how.
no. I had a translator, but being actually, I like reason I like Korea because you get your money on time and
Oh,
uh
what?
yeah, you can find places to eat. Back then I was just, they had everything they have here in Korea, and
Hmm.
they had the army bases. So you meet a lot of, I met the cook that cooked for the general. So I got on base. He cooked, Thanksgiving. He cooked me a turkey dinner. You know what I mean? So, it
What?
was, but
Wow.
it was, yeah, yeah. So it was tough because they played a lot more games. It was weekends in Europe, and it was almost every other day
Really?
in Korea. We played Tuesday and Thursdays and probably Saturdays. So there was a lot, and in between it's 3 4 hour practices. So it got to a point. I mean, and they put their hands on their own players. They beat up their players. They used to beat up their
What?
players. My
Smack
first
them
year,
around?
Man, smack them, kick them. My first year, we played a game. I don't know if it was a scrimmage game or whatever. Or early game. We lose. The guy made a mistake. We lose the game. So we have to stand at attention while the general manager talks, right? So he grabs the guy. He grabs him by the ear, turns his ear, and smacks him with the other hand. And he kept doing it. I don't know what the hell he was saying. And I went to step forward. The other American grabbed me. He said, that's what they do. I was like, man, I was mad. The dude fell. He kicked him in the. Oh man.
What?
And yeah, so we ended up didn't play well. Then they try to get rid of the other American. This is what they did. So they told me they pulled me into a meeting and they told me to stay out of it. Said whatever I see, let it be. I was an older guy then, so I got a lot of respect because I was an older veteran. So it was like whatever I see, let it go. Don't get involved. So we was in practice one day. They had a group go upstairs in the weight room, and a group go down on a court. So I'm upstairs in the weight room. So I cut the treadmill on. They was like, no, slow, Prue, slow. I was like, all right. So I started lifting weights. No, Prue, no. So they just had me sitting in the weight room doing nothing for like 30 minutes to an hour. So when it was time to go downstairs, they told me to throw water on myself like I was sweating. They told me to throw water on myself, like water. I go down, them dudes, there was a bunch of younger guys, and the other American was with them, right? So all right, so I'm like this. I'm like, okay, they running, they're tired. So they had this drill where he'd roll the ball, you have to run and stop it. They'll roll it somewhere else, all these balls, right? So they rolled his ball all the way at the end of the court. He had to run speed, stop it. Then they'll drop it right in front of him. He had to run all the way back. They'll throw it all the way down, right? Well, mine, they just dropped mine in front of me. Boom. Drop mine in front of me. Boom. I ain't had to move. This went on for like a week. This kid was about to go home, and he wouldn't eat with the team. So I used to take the food and take it back to him so he had something to eat. Man, it was just crazy. But he didn't end up quitting though. It was amazing how they was trying to make him quit. Because if he'd have quit, the contract was void. So the contract was guaranteed. And that's some of the things they do, man. And we didn't have a good year. They didn't bring me back. They didn't bring me back.
They didn't bring you back because you was sneaking food to them cats. It was on punishment.
So how about this? They bring me back the next year, right? Halfway through a little bit halfway through the season. We were in 6th or 8th place. The other American mother died, right? And he was getting ready to quit. They wouldn't let him go home. I was like, look, if you got to he was a good player. I said, you got to let him go home. I was talking to the team. I was like, you got to let him go home, and he's going to come back. I said, if you don't let him come home, it's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? So they let him come home and come back. We end up getting to 6th place. We get in the playoffs, and we lose in the semifinals. So we had a real good year. Guess what? They didn't bring me back again. All right? The third year, the first team was SBS. They were the TV station, SBS Stars. So the team, I go to the tryout. They had tryouts in Chicago. I go to the tryouts and stuff. Boom, boom. The team didn't pick me up. All right. So a month into their workouts, I get a call to come over. So I go over. So it was a flight from Dulles all the way to Korea. It's 15 hours straight, and they fly you first class. Yeah. So I get there, and the other American is still there. He was hurt. They were trying to get rid of him. So I'm there for like a month. We win 8 games, and they would slide every time we win. They would slide me $200-$300 a game. You know what I mean? They was paying me under the table. It was like, oh, good game. Oh, good game. So after a month, they couldn't get rid of him. They was like, we got to send you back home. We can't, because they couldn't pay both salaries. They didn't want to pay both salaries. So I come home. A week later, they were in first place when I left. The week later, the second place team calls me. I go over, fly. But when I got there at 2 or 3 o'clock, they said, we got a game tonight. I said, what? They said, no, I got it in the morning. They said, we got a game tonight. You got to play the game tonight. I said, what? I said, all right, fuck it. I said, all right. I said, just let me sleep up until game time. and ended up having a pretty decent game. Actually, it was against that team. It was against the team I just left, and we ended up playing them in the championship game.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Dang,
yeah,
karma's a bitch.
man. Yep. Then they fucked me over after that. Somebody fucked my money up, and I tried to go back the next year. Uh, I went to the tryout. They said they didn't receive my paperwork, and I sent the email. So when I sent the email, I showed them the email. They didn't get it, so I'm like, yeah. Then the team brought me over, but they couldn't keep me. They took a picture with me and him. That's how crazy it was.
Right. Wow.
Yeah,
Sounds like you had a very, very interesting basketball career.
yeah. After high school and college, it wasn't quite the same.
No. Started in middle school. Don't give me that after high school. In middle school to Jesus, the last foreign team you played for. It just sounds like a great ride, and I'd have loved to have been along. I'll tell you. What I need you to do now is, can you get me up to date on what's Darryl Prue doing right now?
Right now, I'm looking for a job. I'm trying to get back into. I'm looking to get back into teaching when I was in DC. I just left Alcorn State, and it was just didn't work out. It was just a lot of factors, facilities and stuff like that. I coached at Georgetown. I coached at Morgan State, and I did AAU in high school. I shouldn't have left my high school. I did a European thing. I just went over there to Alcorn. I didn't investigate it first, and I was coaching at St. Charles High School last year. We ended up losing in the regional by last second shot, and but I should have stayed there. But I had the itch to get back in college, and I scratched the itch. Now I'm trying to figure out the next move. Probably just go back to coaching and working in DC. I think the little kids need me more now than these high school kids or college kids.
I agree.
Because they they just need more direction and stability than the older kids. And I think that's where I'm at in my life right now. I still work with guys and stuff like that to help them out, but to do it full time with all the stuff you have to go through, parents and everybody's entitled, and you know what I mean. Like, I had a good group of guys at Alcorn, and they were really good. You know what I mean. I got there late. I got there a couple of weeks before the season, and they responded to me well.
That's a blessing.
That was a big blessing. Yeah.
You late to the show, you late to the respect line too.
Yeah. I earned it. You know what I mean? I just kept my mouth closed and helped the guys out. And they started. The one guy really helped out, and he went from 1 point a game to 14. You know what I mean? So he started asking more questions, and everybody saw it, and you know what I mean. So and they knew I told the truth. So it wasn't no bullshit with me. And but my school I left, I'm still trying to get back in that system. So we'll see how this thing goes. I got another month or two to figure it out.
Well, I tell you, from everything I've heard, if you just throw all that on your application, they'd be a fool not to hire you, Darryl. The experiences you had through basketball, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, you've been there, you done that, you literally wrote the book.
Yeah, man. It's everybody sees, this and this and that. They don't understand the backstory to a lot of different things. It's like, that's why I got the book written, because a lot of people don't know. And some people know stuff here and there. Like, my cousin didn't know about the story about Georgetown, what really happened inside those closed doors. And I told him recently, and he was wild. He was like my big brother. You know what I mean? He never asked. You know what I mean? So now it get out. The story. I went to West Virginia. You know what I mean? That get out. How everything went in high school, how the recruiting went. Some of the stuff you heard, and I just told you. But it's like I think my blessing on this earth is to help someone else go through some of this stuff, and I helped a lot of different people, and they'll tell you. They're in the book too. They responded and said some nice things about me, but at the end of the day, it's like I can't even get an interview now in high school, and I'm overqualified. You know what I mean? So it's like they're the AAU guys, and they can't control me. You know what I mean? So it's I don't do politics. I don't do politics well. I do.
That's it.
I just do people. You know what I mean?
And saying I used to hear the same thing when I was trying to do a career change later in my life. And the overqualified thing is crap. You know what
Right.
that means? That means you're too old. We can pay a young guy less.
Exactly.
Sorry, that's what it means, man. Ain't no such
Exactly.
thing as overqualified.
Exactly.
I'd love to find overqualified people to work for me.
Right. Yep. Yep. Make the job
So,
easier. You know what I mean? So
amen, Darryl. That's right. So, yeah, man, I could talk to you for another hour, but I've already done it. I've already went overtime tonight, and I've only gone overtime 3 shows, and that means it was a banger, man. I
appreciate
couldn't
it.
get enough
Yeah.
information out of you. So we got to get ready to wrap this up. I want to thank you very much for joining me.
Mhm.
It
Thank
was,
you
it was
for
a
having me.
pleasure.
And the more podcasts I go on, the more I leave my legacy because it's always out there. You
Well,
know what I mean? You never know how long you're gonna be on this earth.
in pre-show, I know I fumbled a little bit on how I got in contact with you, but now I exactly remember. I believe you said I have a story to tell. Is that what
Yeah,
you told me?
I probably did.
That's it. Only 2 people have done that. One was a basketball official. He said, I got a
uh-huh.
story to tell. And then you. So, yeah, I remember. So,
Yeah.
this is the gentleman, Jack. This here is Darryl Prue. Be sure to go check out the JacobSloanFoundation.com for me, please. They're doing great things for the kids all around the state of Maryland. They do things like backpacks to get them back to school. They scholarship kids in direct programs. It's numerous things they do to help kids around the state of Maryland, and I just love it. We're going to check out Chesapeake Landscape Materials. As I said, they're at 8217 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard, Pasadena, Maryland. Phone number is 410-437-7718. Anything you need, JC guarantees it. Tell them the gentleman sent you. Next Monday, we got Chris Brissett of O'Connell Baseball, head coach at O'Connell. Is going to step in with us and take a spin. This Wednesday, I'm going to have to take a pass. I got a JC field trip coming out Wednesday. I'm going to go check out, so keep your eye. And wherever you get your book fix, keep an eye out for Darryl's book called True Prue, Prue, dropping soon. And it's that time, as I always say, and my pop would tell you the same thing. Let me turn you loose.